You dare stand before my court and say nothing?
Yeah, someone who's really scared right now.
The Hall of Eternal Accord had never been so silent. It was a place built for silence, in the way that cathedrals are built for echoes. White spires stretching toward a frosted sky, columns carved from living moonstone, galleries lined with centuries of elven nobility standing in perfect, practiced stillness. Every surface gleamed. Every face was composed. Every breath was measured. And then there was Ethan Mercer. He stood in the center of the grand hall, hands loose at his sides, dark jacket slightly rumpled from 2 days of travel through the Vale roads. He had not combed his hair. He was, by every observable measure, the most informal thing that had ever entered this chamber. Around him, the assembled court of the Aelori, the oldest elven civilization on the continent of Varenthal, watched him with expressions ranging from cold contempt to open curiosity. And before him stood Queen Elara. She was extraordinary. Even Ethan, who had met 3 heads of state and a sitting emperor in his diplomatic career, found himself momentarily at a loss. She was young-looking in the way that ancient things sometimes are. Dark braided hair falling past armored white and gold shoulders, pointed ears framed by a crown of winged silver, blue-gray eyes that held about 800 years of practice at making people feel very small. She wore her authority like a second skin. She was also furious. "You come here," she said, her voice low and perfectly controlled, "representing a species that has existed for fewer centuries than my youngest court attendant has been alive. You come here to my hall with no formal address, no ancestral offering, no kneeling, and you smile at me." Ethan had in fact smiled. It was a reflex. He'd been working on it. "I meant no disrespect, Your Radiance. Do not." The composure cracked. "Just slightly. Just enough. Do not speak to me in that casual tone. Do you know what we do to emissaries who disrespect this court? Do you know the last human who stood where you stand and failed to observe protocol?" "I don't," Ethan said. "But I get the feeling you're about to tell me." The silence that followed was absolute. And then Elara screamed. Not a shriek of fear. Not a wail of grief. It was a sound of pure, refined, aristocratic fury. A controlled explosion of centuries of dignity pressed to its absolute limit. It rang off the moonstone columns and sent ripples across the ceremonial water channels that lined the hall floor. Several court attendants took an involuntary step backward. A senior advisor actually flinched. Ethan did not move. He stood there completely still, watching her. Not with defiance, not with amusement, and not with the wide-eyed terror that the court clearly expected. He watched her the way someone watches a person they are genuinely concerned about. His brow was slightly furrowed. His head tilted just a degree to the left. When her voice died, the silence came back even harder. "You're scared," Ethan said quietly. Elara stared at him. "That's what this is," he continued. His voice gentle in a way that somehow didn't feel patronizing. "You're not angry at me specifically. You're angry because something is threatening something you love, and you don't have a clear answer. And I walked in here representing the one option you haven't tried yet, and that terrifies you. So you're making me feel small before I can make you feel vulnerable." No one breathed. Elara's hands, which had been raised in the gesture of royal condemnation, slowly lowered. "You know nothing of what threatens us," she said. But her voice had changed. The performance was gone. What was left underneath was something rawer and quieter. "I know the dusk tide has been moving south for 3 seasons," Ethan said. "I know your eastern provinces have lost contact. I know you've sent 4 delegations to the old mountain courts and received nothing back. And I know that your people have a law, older than this hall, that says you cannot ask an outside nation for help without first demonstrating that you have exhausted every internal resource. He paused. You haven't asked us for help because asking would mean admitting you can't do this alone. And you'd rather scream at a human diplomat than say those words out loud. The court was frozen. Elara looked at him for a very long time. How, she said finally, do you know these things? Because I read everything I could find about your civilization before I came here. Because I spent 2 months learning Old Aelori so I could read sources your people stopped translating 400 years ago. He reached into his jacket and produced a folded document, dense with hand-copied notes. And because I talked to your refugees. The ones in the border camps that your court hasn't officially acknowledged yet. They told me what's actually happening out there. He stepped forward, just 1 step, and held the document out toward her. I'm not here to embarrass you or your court, your radiance. I'm here because my people are very good at surviving things we weren't supposed to survive. And I think right now that might be exactly what you need. Elara did not take the document immediately. She looked at it, then at him, then at her court, rows of ancient faces watching with carefully neutral expressions that could not quite hide the fact that every single one of them was holding their breath. She thought about the Eastern silence, the missing delegations, the cold that was moving inward like a tide that had forgotten how to stop. She stepped down from the dais, something she had not done for a foreign emissary in over 200 years, and took the document from his hand. She opened it. Read the first page. Then the second. You translated the Accord of Falling Stars, she said quietly. Scholars from my own court have been trying to complete that translation for 60 years. I had a good dictionary and a lot of time on the road, Ethan said. For the first time, something crossed Elara's face that was not anger or authority or performance. It was something smaller and more real. A crack in the marble, just wide enough to let light through. Ethan Mercer, she said carefully, tasting the syllables of his very human name. You are the strangest emissary this court has ever received. I've been told that before. It was not a compliment the other times. I know. He smiled, that same reflex from before, but warmer now, offered rather than accidental. Is it one this time? Elara looked at him, this rumpled, unhurried, frighteningly perceptive human who had walked